This is a secret level clearance briefing in the Florida Maquis. If you are here, you have chosen to be read in on the future of psychological operations. A good understanding of the very basic concepts of how the human mind works is critical to identifying and using psychological operations. We have seen in the media stories of waterboarding and all of this nonsense about how people have been broken in interrogation techniques. None of that is necessary. To a trained interrogator like myself, it was just beyond the pale. No human being is immune from these tactics. I don't care who you are. I don't care how well you've been trained. The well-trained can hold out for a while, just long enough for what they know to become irrelevant, but nobody can hold out against proper psychological operations done correctly. And if the people that are being subjected to it don't even know it's happening, they stand no chance. So, we are going to start here at one of the very fundamental things that you need to know to be a psychological operator or to understand psychological operations. This is a basic tenet called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what this is a pyramid that at the very bottom represents the human condition. Of course, at the bottom you have your physiological needs, the things you need just to maintain above ground breathing. Then, just above that is, safety needs. Security, safety, mental health type of stuff. That even though you could have your physiological needs met, you could, not have these and still be not long for this world. The next one up has to do with more of a state of mental well-being. Belongingness, love, affiliate with others, like-minded folks. The next one is feeling good about yourself, self-esteem. The one above that is where you are so in command of your life that you're now, and the reason they use, this is where you start to take risks. Cognitive needs to know, understand, and explore, where you can start to take chances knowing you have all of these four things taken care of. Once you have a command of this, then you can move up to these higher two levels. Very few people in the world actually operate at this top level. And even a little bit more people operate at this aesthetic needs part, symmetry, order, beauty. But most people operate at level 4, and some get to level 5. When you have someone that you are detaining as an interrogator, the idea is to break them all the way down to here. Because then they become very defensive. You get them into a fight or flight mode. And at that point, they're very easy to manipulate. The media does this with Fox News Alert, for example. And the reason, I'll just say this as an aside, I focus a lot on Fox News and the conservative culture because I look at the people that are watching my videos, the people that have come to my channel, and I see the demographics. And they're largely people late 30s, 40s, and older, white, American, and red state folks. I don't have very many folks that would probably be blue state or liberal, so I focus on the things that would apply to you. After 9/11 and all of the TV coverage, the nonstop TV coverage, even today, when people that have continued to watch that see Fox News Alert or they hear the sounds associated or see the colors, without them even being conscious of it, their mind switches. And they automatically go into a mode where everything they hear, they automatically give credence to. They're no longer suspicious of anything that comes after, this is a Fox News Alert, or the graphics or the sounds associated with it. And that's a large psychological operation. And what it has to do with, we'll jump to here, is this thing called normality bias. Let's see if I can find a better picture here. Here we go. It's a mental state people enter when facing a disaster. It causes people to underestimate both their possibility of a disaster and its possible effects. This is one of the most critical things to understand about how people operate in the world when they're being operated on psychologically. They will never admit to themselves, and I include myself in this, you will never admit that when you see something coming down the road, that it's going to affect your life in a way that's going to make a radical change. It's just not someplace people go. Initially, they always find excuses. They find ways to rationalize what's happening. This happened a lot during the last election cycle. I'm not going to waste a lot of time here talking about that. We'll do that in another video. But if you recall, the very first video that we did here on the Florida Mucky Patreon, pardon me, I lost my train of thought there, was cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the result of normalcy bias. It's the excuse-making stage. It's the rationalization that people have when something they see doesn't agree with something they've already decided is the case. How this does apply to us with psychological operations is this. If our target is, let's say, a member of the media or even a member of Congress, they are going to have in their mind a certain opinion of those supporting them and those who are against them. And any information that we would bring to light that would show that perhaps those people were not who they thought they were will be rationalized away. The big example is anybody who doesn't support the current administrator is clearly doesn't either also support the Republican Party, or doesn't support conservatism or conservative values. You can say they're not Christian, you can say they're not good with money, and that they're lazy, and you can add all of these things in, because that allows you to file things away in your mind that make sense for you. To see someone in your church or your social group that would disagree with you on one point, but then agree with you on all of these others, would cause cognitive dissonance. So just little seeds of information that cause that hiccup can throw people into a dissonant state. You can throw them into a state where they're automatically in defense mode. And just to cover this real quick, we've covered training on this. Cognitive dissonance is a mental conflict that occurs when beliefs or assumptions are contradicted by new information. And that's very, very critical, because when you're operating and you're trying to operate a psychological operation, for sounding a Department of Redundancy department here, when your target is unaware of what you're doing, you need to be very careful that you don't give it away. You have to be very careful to make sure that you're maintaining them right where you want them to be, right up into the point that you then drop the hammer with the new information. In one of my poll questions, I was asking about this immigration issue where you had this friend that you've known for a long time, and then all of a sudden you found out that they were in the country illegally, and you were fighting with this moral dilemma whether you turn them in because you believe in the rule of law or you don't. But then in the choices, I said that the person was from Sweden and not from Latin America. So that would be that little extra piece of information that you would use to throw the person into cognitive dissonance, so that they lost an understanding of what they thought they knew. It's a tricky thing. It takes a lot of training and it takes a lot of time to understand how people take information and process it. And the media, both on the left and right, have people on staff that their whole mission in life is just to understand that. When someone sees our graphics, when someone hears these words, how do they react? How long do they watch commercials for? How long do they take before they get bored and they switch channels? What types of information that we put out result in high sales for this type of thing? It's incredibly complex, the psychological operations that are run by big business. They're actually much more prolific at it than the military is. And that's why a lot of guys in the military come out and they go into marketing and they go into sales and human relations, because they understand the concepts of how to manipulate people and how to make them do things that they would not normally do. And when you say something like, if I would have told the people that are Republicans, conservatives now, that if I would have told them in 2009 that in 2018 the person that they were going to support for president would have spent 10 years in the Democratic Party, they would have laughed in my face. But that is the case, and that's how things can change. That's how information can manipulate the mind in such a short time. So, anyway, next video we will be talking about groupthink and how this plays in with the normality bias, confirmation bias, organizational culture, and Maslow's hierarchy. As homework, I would recommend doing a study on this and look at people in your life and see if you can identify where these people are. I'm sure that they will run the gamut. Everybody knows people in their life that are just barely hanging on. For some reason, they don't make decisions in their life well enough to get beyond a certain level. And then there's some people that no matter what happens to them, they seem to always remain focused and steady Eddie and know what's going on with themselves. So it's no rhyme or reason to it. It's something that everybody has a different task in life, a different set of strengths and weaknesses, and also a different set of circumstances. So understanding this, being able to identify it and identify it in yourself, will give you the very basic fundamental tools that you'll need to start beginning to realize when you're being manipulated, and to, white hat, of course, use these techniques to motivate people around you. So we'll leave it there. 12.5 minutes. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate all of you guys that have stepped up at the secret clearance level. The very basic level here is going to be critical, absolutely critical for this audience to understand going into the coming election cycle, the psychological operations that are going to be run very soon. So we'll see you next time, and like, share, and hopefully we will build this audience and make a difference. Take care.